Hello, and welcome to the Edwardian kitchen of Benares Historic House. My name is Lindsay, and I'm here with you today to make a summertime favorite, strawberry shortcake. Before we begin, we acknowledge that this land on which we work and create is the traditional territory and treaty land of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee First Nations. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Inuit, Métis, and global Indigenous peoples who call this region home today, and we acknowledge that these words only hold meaning if followed by meaningful action and a commitment to listening and learning. Strawberries are native to North America. They've always grown here, and they play an important role in Indigenous culture. Anishinaabe grandmother Kim Wheatley shared with us this Indigenous teaching. Strawberries, odemin, also known as heartberries, were traditionally wild foraged in June during the strawberry moon, when the moon pulls all water upwards. If you're interested in learning more about the Indigenous lunar calendar, check out Heritage Mississauga's Indigenous Teaching Series, in which they do teachings about each moon in the Indigenous lunar calendar. Strawberries have been grown and foraged in the wild for a long time. In fact, it wasn't until the early 1800s that cultivation became widespread. Clarkson was once known as the strawberry capital of Ontario because of the many strawberries that were grown here and shipped fresh to market from the nearby Clarkson's railway station. Strawberry shortcake at the dessert became popular in the 1850s, but the traditional version we're making today may be a little different than you're used to. To start, we're going to make the shortcakes. To make our shortcakes, we'll need 2 cups of flour, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 2 teaspoons of white sugar, and half a teaspoon of salt. And we'll mix that together in a big bowl. Now, once that is mixed together, we'll add in 1/3 cup of cold butter cut into small pieces. Now I'm going to mix or cut in the butter into the dry ingredients. To do that, I'm going to use a pastry blender, but you could also use 2 knives, your hands, or even a food processor. And we're going to do this until it resembles coarse crumbs. Now today, when we eat shortcake, we usually enjoy it with an angel food cake, a sponge cake, or a pound cake, but the traditional shortcake is more like a biscuit. It's called a shortcake because it's made out of a shortened dough, or a dough that crumbles. The opposite is a long dough, or a dough that stretches. Think cinnamon bun dough. Now that our dough resembles coarse crumbs, we're ready to add the liquid. In this case, 3/4 cup of cold buttermilk, but you could also use regular milk or whipping cream, whatever you like. And we're just going to mix it until everything is incorporated. We don't want to overmix because then our small chunks of butter will melt, and we don't want that. They're what help make our biscuits nice and flaky. I like to finish it off with my hands. I think it's a little bit easier that way. Now we're ready to roll and cut our biscuits. We're going to do that on a floured surface with a floured rolling pin. let me show you my trick for getting lots of layers in my biscuit. Before I roll it, I like to fold the dough over onto itself a couple of times, also known as laminating. This will make sure that my biscuits have lots and lots of layers in them. And we'll roll our dough until it's about 1 inch thick, and then cut the biscuits with a cookie cutter. Now our biscuits are ready to bake, and I could bake it with the wood stove behind me, but in order to get the fire hot enough to actually bake, it would make the kitchen and the house pretty miserably hot. In the wintertime, that extra heat was welcome. In the summertime, not so much. The Harris family, like many families, had an outdoor bake oven, and they would use this in the summer to keep their house cool and bake in large amounts. The bake oven is made out of brick, and how it works is in the morning, we start a big fire and we let it burn hot inside the bake oven for most of the day. The brick absorbs all of that heat, and then when the fire has burned out, we push the coals to the back and we bake our biscuits or whatever we want in that heat that's been absorbed by the brick. While our biscuits bake, we can get started on our strawberries and whipped cream. For our strawberries, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to wash our berries, and then once they're washed, we're going to hull and slice them. Hulling means to cut off the top. I strongly suggest that you use local in-season strawberries where you can. You'll notice a big difference in taste. Now, you can cut your strawberries to whatever size you like, either in slices or small chunks. Once you have all of your berries sliced, you're going to add a little bit of sugar. And how much sugar you add is going to depend on how sweet your berries are and how sweet you like it. In my case, my berries are pretty sweet, so I'm going to only add probably about ½ tablespoon. And we're just going to mix that in. Now, this is something you can actually do the night before or even the morning of when you plan to have your strawberry shortcake. The longer the strawberries sit in the fridge with the sugar, the more syrupy and sweet they're going to get. Next, we'll move on to the whipped cream. And for that, all we need is 1 cup of cold whipping cream, and 1 tablespoon of sugar. You can also add vanilla to this if you'd like. And we're going to whip this until stiff peaks form. To make my work a little bit easier, I'm going to use one of these, invented in the 1890s, a handheld egg beater. And it makes mixing by hand a little bit easier, but you could also use a handheld mixer for this. Now our biscuits are baked, we're ready to assemble everything. Traditionally, shortcakes were made while the biscuits were still warm. To start, we're going to split our biscuit in half. We'll add a spoonful of whipped cream, and then however many strawberries you'd like. Some more whipped cream. And then we'll put our biscuit top back on. And there you have it, traditional strawberry shortcake. Thank you so much for joining us in the Benares kitchen for Blooms and Berries. We hope that this gives you inspiration for how you can enjoy some delicious strawberries this summer in your own home.